My name is Dr. Viet. I am a chiropractor. I've been practicing for the last 15 years. It seems like it's been forever, but actually I feel like I'm just getting started. I focused my attention not just on chiropractic recently, but I feel like I've evolved to a point where medicine to me has taken on a different meaning. And so as I'm sitting here talking to Elmo and we're getting ready to do this interview, I think about some of the things that we've talked about and some of the things that are relevant. And it's quite nice because it makes me feel more human in being able to do what I do, not just from a position of teaching or being a doctor, but I feel like I'm able to connect with people a little bit more honestly because just the knowledge I've accumulated, the experience that I've had in seeing so many people has led me to a point where I feel like I have something to share and something to give back beyond just what I'm able to do with my hands, beyond what it is that I'm able to do on a one-on-one exchange. So Elmo is giving me a little bit of an opportunity.
Thank you. Well, thanks, Dr. Lay. Now you talked about connecting.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I know the most times when we feel most alive or most at use is when we're connecting with others, right? There's time for solitude, but connecting with others is really important. And so in your practice, you meet a lot of people. What tools do you use in terms of social skills, in terms of connecting to all these diverse people who come in here, in your office?
Great question. When a patient first arrives, the first thing I pay attention to is their eyes and their body language as they come into the office. You can learn a lot about someone based on their presence and their demeanor, and you can learn a lot about them when you also look from within and give back to them. And my initial thing I always do is to affirm them. Sometimes I can affirm them with a smile. Sometimes I can affirm them with a look. Sometimes I can affirm their presence with a disregard. And what's interesting is that I don't know what I'm going to do when a patient comes in, and it's something I do instinctually. And it gives them an opportunity to kind of assess me as well, to judge me before they even get to know me. But I can tell you this much. Most of the time, people have no idea what they're getting themselves into when they see me.
That's interesting, because as I told you, I visited three chiropractors. You
Right.
were the third, and I chose you based upon our interaction. I just thought you were very knowledgeable, and
Thank you.
just seemed like a cool guy, easy to talk to, and so that's it. So I like to... Sometimes I don't like to be too scripted.
Mm-hmm.
Scripts are good when you're trying to accomplish or teach something
Mm-hmm.
to make sure you're on track.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're interacting with someone, I think just going by your wits, just, because you can never. Have you ever done this where you're about to have a argument or discussion with somebody, and you already gone over the argument in your head,
Mm-hmm.
like literally, like I'm going to say this, they're going to say this, they're going to say, and you're planning this out. I used to do this when I was younger. But of course, when the time comes for you to do it, what you haven't factored in
Mm-hmm.
is what the other person's going to say, because
Right.
you can't know what they're going to say. You
Right.
only think you know,
Right.
and that's where you get derailed. So living in the moment to me is more important.
Right.
How did you decide to even pursue chiropractic?
Well, chiropractic has been a bit of a gift, honestly. Maybe a mistake that's turned into a gift. It's one where, and I've told the story before, where it wasn't something that I was looking to do. In fact, I didn't know much about chiropractic, but several things happened that influenced my ability to decide to be a chiropractor. I'm not going to retell the story, but I think what's important is that I am so grateful that all the things that has led to that moment, allows me to be sitting here and do the things that I want to do, and allows me to appreciate, what has happened, and I'm just grateful.
So it's a fortunate sort of accident, sort of serendipity in a way. I mean, it
Yes.
sounds like,
Yes.
yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I can relate. I was pushed into doing training, and I hate talking in front of people, and it became my strength. It was funny to put something from a weakness column into your strength column, and to me that was fantastic, and it's something that I really dreaded doing. But once I got over my fear of it, I just loved it.
Yeah.
And like you, I just felt very grateful
Yeah.
to be able to get over that and actually do that. So,
Yeah.
so conquering your fears is a big thing. So, what sort of and this may be hard to answer,
Yeah.
but when someone comes in here and is looking for help, you talked a little bit about how you evaluate. How do you know where to begin, like in terms of healing someone? Because
Right.
Not everyone comes here for the same purpose.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah, so when patients walk through my door again, that initial moment can either allow someone to make a decision to come forward, whether timidly or whether excitedly. The one constant I know is that I put myself in a position where I can be a teacher or a doctor, and therefore they're coming through my doors. So what I do is I represent confidence. I represent confidence not because I'm overly confident. I represent confidence because, I've learned a lot. I have a lot to give, and it allows me to, kind of convey that as I do my interviews. And most of the time, when patients sit down and across from me on this desk, they do most of the talking. I'll listen initially. And during that listening process, I'm literally evaluating them. I am assessing them up and down. I'm assessing their physical being. I'm assessing what they're saying. I am already making decisions as far as what I'm going to do. So by the time the interview is over, I already have a plan. It's just that simple for me. And it's one where you can kind of just break away from conventional medicine, conventional diagnostic tools that we've learned, which I still use. But knowing, or having a medical background and chiropractic background allows me to use that knowledge. But then where I feel like I've become a good doctor is that you just become human. You talk to them, you soothe them, you exhibit confidence, and you do the things that your mom taught you, which is to literally be a good human being. And I think about my mom a lot when I treat patients, because I think I've got my gift from her.
Really good. That was a good tip to your mom there. And we mirror each other so much times because my mom's a teacher. She taught for 40 years, so I think some of my ability to teach is just from her, because I've never really been trained in it. I just do it, and it's, I think, through her. So
I see.
So that's important. One of the things I found out is when I am teaching, or rather training, I should say, but it is teaching. When folks come into the classroom, most of the time they've been voluntold, like, you have to take this training and that's it. But a lot of times they don't want to be there. And I actually love that, because they come with such low expectations, and they're even a little angry sometimes. So for me to go from where they are to actually have them leaving and loving having gone to the class, that's my challenge.
Yeah.
I find that's easier than having them come up with these high expectations. Because people say, hey, Elmo's a great, he's a great trainer going at. I don't like that. I like to come up with low expectations.
Sure.
So I can really blow their mind because they weren't expecting it.
Right.
Also, literally, similarly, I would think that folks that come here, since this is what we would call non-traditional or alternative medicine,
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole thought pattern that goes into people who come through these doors because it's alternate.
Mm-hmm.
And they've come here because they don't have an alternative other than this. They like,
Yes.
my back hurts or whatever it is, and
Right.
these doctors can't fix it, so they told me to come here.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that sort of skepticism?
It's really interesting, and I'm going to segue into answering your question, but as I was listening to you, what you essentially described about yourself was humility. You have a lot of humility, and that's why you want to keep your expectations low with the mindfulness that you have an opportunity to really excel. So for me, when patients come in, I don't have low expectations of myself. I have a lot of confidence, but I have humility along the way. And it's that humility that people can see and feel that they as they get to know me, it becomes a little bit, it transforms and morphs. But in any case, I don't know. I just think it's easier as we've treated people, or as I've treated people along the way. I just meet so many different personalities, and what do you do with all of these personalities that walk through the door? You can't just conform to them. You can't please them, right? There's no pleasing in a medical exchange, alternatively or allopathically. So what I try to do is I try to keep to myself. I try to always be myself. And that's all I can control. There are people that really gravitates, towards this, and there are other people that won't. But that's okay with me. But I know for a fact that when I keep to my perspective, that I believe is the right thing to do for individuals, whatever the circumstances, when you come from a reference of a good heart, when you come from a reference of a good foundation, then it's real easy to provide that, that sense of healing. Now, if I came with other alternatives, or I thought about my business and that's what I cared about, and I'm a business owner, and I cared about my reputation, or I cared about what I look like, and all these other superficial things, people can see right through that. And I don't want to waste my time. I normally don't wear a jacket, as we're working. Typically, I'm just wearing, whatever it's comfortable so I can do my job, and it's okay with me.
So it sounds as though, and I'm just kind of throwing back what you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
and that we should always be striving for a level of authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you are false, it's hard to keep that up.
Mm-hmm.
I think, but when you're yourself, either people are going to like it or not, but irregardless, you were yourself.
Right.
All right. So those are some good lessons that can transcend any medical background or whatever.
Right.
We're talking about bedside manner in
Sure.
a way. So.
Which I think is absolutely important, by the way. I'm sure we can learn about bedside manner, and some people need to learn. But if you can have a true sense of who you are, I think that's a great start to developing a good bedside manner.
That's a whole nother subject there. I like that one. It's like, no, I'm just saying, like, how to be your true self. Because I think for each of us, we have maybe come to that realization of what is important to us and what we need to do to be our truest self.
Mm-hmm.
But some of that has been born through experience.
Mm-hmm.
That we've learned, because we can put on sort of a facade to face the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so to live authentically now without anything and just this is me,
Yeah.
it takes a level of maturity.
Right.
Usually. I mean, some people come to it young,
Yes.
than others, of course.
Yes.
But usually there's some level of growth as human beings, just to get to that point.
Right.
So let's say you have. I have a more of a practical sort of question.
Okay.
Like, I know that chiropractic is what you do, but
Mm-hmm.
you do other things as well.
Right.
So, what is for those who come here, like or those who are looking for a healing, they've got a back pain, or even before they have a back pain, like what can an individual do to create homeostasis, to have a well-functioning body? Like what are the things that are some of the biggest causes why folks come in here, and how can they make changes in their own lives? You know, because prevention is worth a pound of, I forget the statement.
Sure. Yep.
So what can they do?
Well, okay, so being a chiropractor, people come in because they associate you with someone that can help them with their spinal condition. Most of the time, people come in having pain symptoms, and pain is a beautiful thing because it allows people to be consciously aware that they are able to hurt, that they need to do something about it, and if they don't, it just doesn't feel good. And it's just natural for us to want to search and find, because that's what we're supposed to do. I recognize that. Now, as a chiropractor, I know that I'm an expert in spinal health. I know that I'm an expert in rehab. I know that I'm an expert in doing things that people are looking for. But guess what? There's hundreds of thousands of us. And within our community, there's tens, if not, hundreds of us around. So what makes me different than anybody else? Well, I can tell you that I'm not any different than anybody else. I don't want to be different, really. People come in to see me because they've heard of me, because I have good reviews, whatever reasons. But at the end of the day, it just goes back to the simple exchange that my message, my word, it's not just about chiropractic. My skill set is to actually listen to them and allow them to know that their physical symptoms that they're having could be physical, if the etiology indicates that, or it could be something else that they've never thought about. So this is a part of the evolution of me. I feel like my thinking has really evolved in the sense that I don't look at the physical being anymore and niche myself from a chiropractic perspective. Before our associations, whether it's a doctor of chiropractic, a doctor of medicine, doctor of dentistry, well, guess what? There's a word that precedes all of that, and that is the word doctor. And according to the Greek mythology, or the Greek language, I'm sorry, not mythology, the word doctor means teacher. So I really take that into consideration when I consult with anyone, because I think my degree has given me the most opportunity to help people in the safest way. And I'm grateful for that. I chose this profession not knowing how beautiful and expansive the doctor of chiropractic profession can be. Because what it's forced me to do is not only pay attention to what is generally accepted through the allopathic vernacular, but it has forced me to look at things in a way that allows me to practice outside of the scope of just manipulation. And that to me is really important, and that's what I focus my energy on right now, is to be able to be a very good clinician who can help patients make decisions if they don't know, or if they've seen 10 million other doctors and they still don't have solutions. Well, the solution is right in front of their face if they're able to put it all together. And most of the time we're so niched into finding single solutions that we don't necessarily understand how complex the human body, the human mind, and the human physiology can be. And to me, that is the premise behind what I do, which is functional medicine, but in a very integrative way with the mindfulness of the body, the physiology, and the actual psychology, or the 3 Ps.
So, right, so you may be tempted as, like I'm the owner of an electronics store, and you come in but you are actually looking for a wooden chair. But I sell electronics, so I'm going to convince you to take one of the electronics that'll make me some money, but doesn't really solve your problem that you need a wooden chair. So I should be referring you to a furniture store or woodworking that can handle that.
Right.
So I think maybe the tendency then is, because you're in business to do a certain thing, that even though it may cause some ease, but it may not be the really curative agent that they need,
right.
But you may still do it just because you're a chiropractor.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is that you're treating the person so that you have to, if you cannot, and I don't want to put words in your mouth,
yes.
but if you do not have the solution to their problem, but
right.
you have an idea what the problem is,
right.
you can then refer them to somebody who
absolutely
can.
Yeah, and I've done that numerous of times, and I want to do it. And because I don't want to have the sole responsibility of someone's health in my hands. I think it's really important for patients to really get a grip of what they have around them. And what they have around them is a wonderful resource, right? Clinicians everywhere. The fault with what I see where medicine is going is that it lacks the integration in a way that is responsible. Because of the way that it's set up. So you can't change hundreds of years of philosophical thinking when it comes to healthcare. But when a person sees me and they understand what my goals are, there is no doubt that they know that I will help them if I can. But I have no problems, referring out if I need it, or if I need to, or if they need to. I think it's just necessary. Now, collaboration with other clinicians are absolutely critical. And I think that's really important, not just for me to convey to you, but I think this is an important message for all doctors, really. Because as we want to be good, and do the right things for patients, there's always an internal conflict, it seems, when it comes to trade, knowledge, awareness, responsibility, liability. All of those things are relevant too, and unfortunately, we're always putting other aspects that are important. But I know for me, personally speaking, I know that the patient's health is the most important, and they need to know that.
So do you have sort of like when folks work on a business, could be a internet business or mom and pop shop, it doesn't matter, but you'll have sort of a mission statement. And that mission statement is important because it helps you to sort of navigate your movement through this business.
Right.
And so sometimes you can say, well, you're not sure. You can go in so many directions because as a business owner, you have to decide where you're going to spend your time and energy. And so sometimes you then need to go back to your mission statement and says, well, if I go off in this direction, is this supporting my mission of what I'm doing? And so it can help you keep on track in terms of like, oh yes, this does, but this doesn't. So I won't spend my time doing that.
Right.
Again, similarly, I know doctors have to take a Hippocratic oath. Do you
Yes.
have to take an oath as a chiropractic?
Absolutely.
As a healer?
Yes.
And what is that like? What is that?
Well, the Hippocratic oath, based on its foundation, is to do no harm. Right? And to me, that's very important. But that's vitally important for a chiropractor. Right? Why? Because based on the skill sets that we're able to do, well, we can influence somebody physically and create change. We want better change, not adverse change. Or, if we're, doing functional medicine, for instance, we want to make sure that the holistic things that we're able to give to a patient will have a positive effect, not an adverse effect. So that Hippocratic oath, to me, do no harm, is perfect for what I do because there's less harm in doing holistic and quote-unquote alternative medicine than it is to alter the physiology by taking medication while correcting a symptom and not know how it can influence the physiology of the rest of the body. I have to be careful in saying that because I don't want to offend anyone. You know, when I work in an environment where we're surrounded philosophically by things that are driven by diagnosing. And diagnosing is so critical in helping people. But you really need to get back to understanding what health is. Health, to me, is a responsibility. Doesn't mean that you have to be perfect at it. But it is a responsibility that is individual. And it evolves over time. When we're young and we don't know what health means, we just live. So it's up to our parents to raise us, to protect us. At age 18, maybe others older, right, others younger, then we can kind of develop and have a sense of idea what it means to feel good, to be strong. It's an evolution, and it takes on a different meaning at different phases in different decades of our life. And so when we are, matriculating through a journey, that we know that there will be an end or a beginning. Well, at the end of the day, what's cool is that along the journey, you've learned a lot more about your health and where you're at. And it's different in every single decade. And just like our mind and our wisdom, our health will change, because our wisdom we gain. We never regress in our wisdom because of life and the time opportunities that we have here. So, yes.
Excellent. I do have to take some issue. You have caused me pain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you said you took an oath not to cause harm.
Yes.
But you have harmed me
yes.
several times. I know that harm was in effect to bring greater healing
yes.
at some point, but it did harm me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to point that out.
Yes.
So there's a larger question in there in terms of what you were talking about. So it seems like you want your patients to be educated
mm-hmm.
as to the state of their body or right. the state of their health, so that they can be that you both can be responsible
mm-hmm.
for their health. It's
mm-hmm.
not just all in your hands that you come in and just do
right.
this thing.
Right.
They have to have a decent understanding of what you've done and say, okay,
right.
these are the things we want to do.
Right.
Which brings me back to my initial question, which was like, how can people not end up in your chiropractic office?
Yeah.
Like, what are the things that they can do? I don't know if there's a litmus to this, but what is it they can do to not end up in here?
Well, first of all, I want to apologize to you if I created harm for you. I can tell you that it was intentional.
It was intentional.
It was intentional.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, certain techniques don't necessarily feel so good.
Sure didn't.
But the end game is that we know that your body will heal. And the intentions, whether it's right or wrong, we want to be right about those, is to engage in some form of change. And physical change sometimes can be important for people, and psychological change can be important. Physiological change is all relevant. But at the end of the day, those decisions that were made with the intentions for what was necessary based on the clinical exchange. Not defending myself at all. I just think it's important, because you and I wouldn't be sitting here and talking if you really felt like I harmed you and there's no need, and you'll never come back. But I think you kind of understand where I'm going from with that.
I was giving you a little hard time.
I know, but I love it. But just from just to be nice, I want to make sure that if that was the case, then I apologize.
No, it's all good, man. We'll probably cut this from the interview anyway. So
yeah, but in any case, going back to the question of what you were having, it was what was that question?
About what can
what can patients do to prevent
to not end up in your office?
Well, you know what? It's really interesting. What can patients do to not end up in my office? I
become patient?
I have a very interesting perspective, which is I must represent a clinic that only sees sick people. So if that's the case, then I don't want anyone to come into my office. Period. But unfortunately, I'm not a facility where I only see sick people. I'm in a facility of healing. I've created a business and a practice that is based on the healing principles, the innate intelligence that we have, or the gift of life. And I respect that tremendously. So for patients to not see me, it's a wonderful thing. It's absolutely wonderful. That means that they don't need to see anyone unless they really have to, or if they wanted to learn more. So I don't really want for patients to see me if I know that they have all the right answers. If they're living their life with no pain, with balanced physiology, with a congruence of strength and fortitude within their mind, I think those are wonderful things for everyone to have. But guess what? If that was the case, then we wouldn't have a whole lot of things to look forward to. So unfortunately, we're all humans and we're not perfect. Therefore, life is, to me, in essence, about the journey of trying to figure out how to preserve ourselves. There's a word I use a lot that I'm not sure whether I've mentioned to you, but it's called self-preservation. And the principles of self-preservation is very important to me to teach others who haven't really reflected, because that word, in my opinion, is health. Now, self-preservation doesn't represent, health for myself. What it represents is, what do I need to do to preserve myself? And if it means reaching out within myself to do so, great. If it means, eating healthier, great. If it means seeing a clinician, great. If it means rehabbing, great. All the while, if we're able to always believe and consistently believe that we are preserving ourselves for this opportunity that we have on this earth, then that to me is what health is.
Yeah, I've not heard that before.
I know.
In terms of self-preservation.
It's because not too many people think about it along those lines. We tend to think about things that are out external. What do we have available? What does our insurance allow us to see? Who should we see? And even if we don't see anyone, what should we do? What should we eat? How many hours do we sleep? There's so much information out there. But, I just like to keep it simple. Let's put it this way. If you spend 80% of the time of your life asking yourself this question, what can I do to preserve my well-being? And you make those decisions, and you're doing that 80% of the time. Let's say 70% of the time you're making decisions to self-preserve. In my opinion, you're excelling. You don't need to be perfect in doing or going down this journey of health. Nobody can be. Yeah, because if that's the case, it's just too much pressure, too much stress to have that perfection perspective. It's impossible. But if you're able to make better decisions, which most of us will make hundreds, and if not thousands of decisions a day, right? And if we're able to do it in a consistent way with a theory and thought of self-preservation in mind, we'll live longer. We'll breathe easier. We'll enjoy life a little easier, a little bit better. And I think more people need to focus on that, in my opinion.
One of the things that I practiced a few years ago when I was trying to understand this art of happiness,
Mm-hmm.
and the Dalai Lama has a book about that. So I read the book, and I don't know if I read it all the way through, but it helped me. Because one of the things that said, well, if you feel discontent, and that could be with your career, with your relationship status, or whatever it is, what do you do? And so what I got from the book was it told me to do something that you love doing, and do that thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe then that would change your perspective, and maybe you would grow more and then start. But you can't get somewhere sometimes from where you are. You have to take steps to get there. So for me, that was a big start, to just do something that I love doing, and then hopefully other answers would come as you go ahead. One of the big takeaways was awareness, and just being aware, and that's awareness of everything. Awareness what's going on with you inside, as what you're talking about, self-preservation, like understanding how you feel, knowing, and I think people know even before sometimes they've gone to a doctor, they can tell when something is wrong.
Absolutely.
And they can't always put their finger on, I think it's this, I think, was it something I ate, was it this? Your mind goes in different directions.
Right.
And then you go on Google and try to search up your symptoms, and then you think you've got everything. So, so this kind of happens, but you know when something is not right.
Yeah.
And so the awareness is not just for a happy life where you're aware of the trees of nature, of how much this life has to offer you. You are, but you can also be aware when things are just not right and you may need to get help. Right. And then, but the question is, for those of us who do not, again, when I started on this journey, I was fortunate. I had a father who believed in alternative medicine. He did acupuncture, shiatsu, he did different things. So he was much more well-versed than most people I knew at the time in terms of alternative medicine. Sure. So it made me open to it. But a lot of times people are approaching this and they have no idea what it is, or they've been given misinformation as to what it is.
Well, Elmo, it starts with recognizing who you are. I mean, self-awareness for anyone is always a good start, right? So, when I, again, listen to you, you are looking from within in order to be able to, find solutions, right? And it wasn't about what the Dalai Lama wrote about, or it wasn't about, what the content from a book says, or even a TV show. All those things were marginal things. They're visual. Those are things that we can hear, taste, feel. But your healing journey started when you decided that you wanted to pick up that book and read it. Is that it? Everything else, you can learn. Everything else, you're open to allow in. But the issue here is that most people don't know how to pick up that book. Okay? And if they want solutions from everything else and awareness, they're just not necessarily open to it. So our mind, our experiences can influence our decision making. My best advice for anyone, for healing themselves or allow others to help in that exchange, is to know that your own body is a healing entity. It has the capacity to regenerate, reform, remodulate, re-energize without you even knowing. And it does so without your permission. So if you're looking for answers from external means, myself included, then why don't you start by recognizing where you're at? So let's say, for instance, a patient comes in and they're in so much pain. They've been to so many different doctors and their joints hurt, all of them. Their body is perfect, meaning that they're a triathlete, but they're in pain all the time. So what do you do? They look good in the mirror, they exercise, but they're in pain and they're sore all the time. What do you do for someone like that, right? someone that is outside the norm. So my answer is, those are the ones who suffer the most. Those are the ones that have the most layers that we have to peel away in order to get to the root cause of the problem. They're the easiest ones to fix if they allow you to. But those are the hardest ones to really get to the root cause. Now, what's interesting is that if you came in as 100 pounds overweight, your lifestyle is not so great, right? You lost, a loved one. You've changed jobs. So everything is in a desperate situation. And if you're coming to someone for help, or if you were picking up that book, then it's real easy to make that change, isn't it? But it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to guarantee success. Because sometimes that in itself is overwhelming, and that's where you need to be able to go and be open enough to recognize that in that horrible state of mind, of physical pain, of physiological imbalance, that one, you can look for external sources to help you, as we should. But here's the thing. Recognize that your body is still healing. It's still healing. Because you can still change that perspective with a little bit of tweaking here and there, with a little bit of knowledge here and there, with a little bit of self-preservation and awareness. So for me, it always goes back to the individual. It always goes back to a philosophy that we've been given a gift. I think about that all the time for me, and I try to remind that to patients. And this is not a philosophy. This is a fact. Okay? We're not bordering on me trying to tell you how to think, how to live your life, how to, do whatever. This is a fact. Physiology is a fact. Vitology is a fact. It is the essence of what life is. If I were to cut myself, I don't look at it and say, okay, you know what, I need to send in the fibrinogen to repair, I don't need blood clotting factors, I need this and that now. I just look away, wipe it clean, let it heal within a few days. How the hell did that happen? Exactly. So when we spend so much time in trying to figure out why and how, which I think it's great, well, at the end of the day, we'll never know what it's going to take to generate that gift of life. So I always try to remind patients, no matter where they're at, they have that potential to heal. It may take them longer if they're in a much worse state, or it may take them very little if they're in better physical condition or better emotional condition, and if they have pain, whatever, you can tweak things. But in any case, that's very important to me. That's what my practice is focused on. That's what I represent. You know this. I am primarily a solo practitioner. I may have a few affiliations. I have some clinicians with me who work and who are skilled at doing other things. But to be honest with you, it's just me, right? And my staff. And the colleagues that I've built along the way, and then my patients. That's what I want it to be. That's how it should be. When it becomes mechanical, when it becomes an ingredient, then you lose the essence of individual care. You lose the essence of what it takes to heal the human body, the human mind, the physiological things that we need to really pay attention to. So I just like to keep it simple from a philosophical perspective and go from there.
Well, yeah, we're gonna wrap up.
Sure.
But and I think it's good. It's not too late. But just wanted to say, and it's probably edited out, but you're blowing my mind right now, and it's awesome, and it's in the way you've described it. This is more than I could hope for, and I thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
These thoughts, because Sadhguru I was listening to, he talks definitely about this. He says, you don't know anything. You think you know some things, but you don't. What you know is very little. There's so many stuff that goes on that goes on without you thinking of it. It just is,
Mm-hmm.
and it just does.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't have to think about it, and you can try and figure out what it is, but it's there for you to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So just use it. And so when you were talking about that, it became clear. You're absolutely correct. Your healing journey starts with this kernel of impetus that starts you to pick up a book, to look for a solution,
Mm-hmm.
or to look for an answer.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the beginning of it, and then the rest will come to you
Mm-hmm.
as it goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Not to take away value of books, they're very valuable.
Of course, and that's just an example, by the way.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
it's an example, but it's actually perfectly right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the things I think about, like when you look at the way we don't have to think that winter will become spring and spring will become summer.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that just happen.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to try and create the seasons because it's not there
Mm-hmm.
for us. If you just let it be,
Mm-hmm.
it will be,
Mm-hmm.
and then you learn to live within that. And
Mhm.
that movement of seasons, I found is actually, I was listening to another healer who was talking about what it is when temperature change, what that does. It takes a human being has to move now to get to homeostasis.
Sure.
Whether it's cold or whether it's hot, has to bring you back to that temperature
Mhm.
inside. But in so doing, in that doing, you strengthen your immune system. In that doing, in that living of going through diverse situations, your body learns to deal with it.
Mhm.
Just like a child starts school and gets sick right away because the immune system now has to learn to deal with all of these different bacteria or thing that's coming at them.
Mm-hmm.
So many things, if you just let it be, it will be. And these are things that poets talk about all the time too.
Mm.
These are, and then you start to see how these things start to converge.
I see.
I thought your words were very, very insightful, and it really has to make me rethink some of my direction here. So I've got to go back to the drawing board. Damn you, Dr. Damn you.
You're so funny.
This,
It's okay, but that's what we're supposed to do. I do this
Yeah.
all the time.
Okay.
I'm not kidding you, man. I have been, I'm at a crossroads of my life where every single patient that I encounter resets. It's like a reset button, for me. That's like the Staples commercial, hit the reset button. But that's the wonderful thing. What's interesting is that when you do this enough and you exchange enough and you've accumulated enough knowledge in position to be able to give back your knowledge, then you can cut through all the bullshit, excuse my language, by giving real poignant and direct information, by not wasting any time for people, right? When they come in and do an interview, yes, you can listen to their story, yes, you can be empathetic, yes, you relate, but all that really doesn't matter, much, right? Because at the end of the day, I think getting to the root causes quickly, imparting your energy, your knowledge quickly, doing it in a way that is responsible, safe, that's an added value for people who are walking in. That's the difference that they see. You know what I mean? It's not so much about, it's a chiropractic office, functional medicine office, it's whatever. It's the decision making that we are going to do that is impactful. And yes, granted, the physical exchanges can be tough, right? Some of the techniques that we're working on can be tough. The physiological effects can be really hard. Or facing your emotional demons can be horrible and transformative. It's never easy, but that's the beauty of it. Jeez, when I have pain, I hate it. I can't stand it. When I hurt my back, I'm like, this sucks.
Yes.
Right? And trust me, I have it too. But what do I do for it? I don't just suffer from it. I get up and I go get my friends, they work on me. I'm doing all sorts of therapy to myself. I'm literally assessing myself and doing whatever I can. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But what does that mean? Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Well, guess what? In my mind, I don't care. I just want it to work. So what I've come to learn is that I don't focus on whether something works or doesn't work. I focus on I'm doing what I need to do. Whether it does or not, it's irrelevant. At some point, my body will get there. At some point, my body will stop being in pain if the solution is right. At some point, that journey will be one where my body will have the best opportunity to repair and heal. And if I'm not doing that, and if I make some mistakes or do things that don't, are not so efficacious, and so be it, continue on. It's the perseverance that people need to have within their mind when it comes to their health. It needs to be reflective in the same way that your body doesn't need permission to heal itself.
Right. As an optimist, I think some of this may come, and I'm not just playing devil's advocate. I think if people are at varying degrees of optimism and pessimism, and so some of these may become harder,
of course,
for a pessimist. But no matter how, I think I found this out kind of young. It's like, no matter how bad things are.
Mm-hmm.
See, I was trying to talk to a girl and she wanted to give me any time of
Mm-hmm.
day, and I felt bad, But after you got through the feeling bad, I was like, that is always tomorrow. Things are going to get better,
Mm-hmm.
right? If it's not this, it's something else. Tomorrow will be better. It doesn't matter what it is. But to have that optimism that things ultimately get better, especially if you're working on something,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you feel like, and like you say, the body itself will take care of things if you just let it be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always trying to get to that balance anyway.
Yeah.
If there's a hindrance to it, then you may have to find help.
Yeah.
But the trajectory is always moving in that direction.
Right.
That's how the body is. That's
Mm-hmm.
how it heals. That's how it is. I'm going to, because I got so many thoughts going through my head.
Sure. And we can do this any other time.
No, we're definitely going to have to meet again. But
Mm-hmm.
but I want to definitely give you the last word.
Ah.
Finish up in any way that you so desire.
Well, to be honest with you, I think this has been a lot of fun for me because I'm so used to doing one-on-one consultations, let's say, and I'm comfortable doing that. My message, I feel, is a big one, but my comfort zone is still that one-on-one exchange. And if I'm able to allow people to think a little bit, to maybe look at things from a different vernacular, realize that that life is, the beauty in life is to suffer, not to always feel like everything is smooth. I think if we accept those things and we learn from those things, then our souls would be very light, our physical being will be much lighter, and our physiology will work for us. So try to keep that in mind, So that's my message for now. I think there are other things that I'm sure we can talk about, but I think it's important for now.